Hey, this is Lauren Abrams with 52 Weeks of Hope, and we have Ashley Gonor here. If you haven't heard her episode yet, I got calls from friends and texts saying, "Oh my God, I love this episode."
Oh,
Which before I even listened to it all the way through again, which I've listened to it now a couple times, which I don't usually do that. I love this episode, and my social media manager just said, "I love this episode" earlier today. So I love hearing that kind of feedback. I don't get that every week. So welcome to being here live. We had a couple things, but first, why don't you introduce yourself and let anyone who's listening later, know who you are and what you do.
sure. My name is Ashley Gonor and live in San Diego. I'm a mom of two girls, 13 and 15, and I have a course called Raising Confidence that was inspired through my podcast, Uncover Your Magic, where I teach children mindset tools, positive affirmations, giving them a morning routine, um, finding their passions, learning their core values, gratitude practice, all the things that I've taught my children that I put into a class. And I also teach parents and adults through a course called Magic Path. And basically they're similar, and, getting rid of limiting beliefs early, especially as children, and now when they're an adult and they're really cemented in, I help through my class Magic Path. But I'm a mother, wife, live in San Diego, love my life and love this show and loved meeting you, Lauren, and
Yeah,
being on your show. That was so fun.
I know, totally was. So let's talk about confidence is a really big topic right now that people are getting out and seeing people again and being very self-conscious and being confident to take a leap of what it is they're being really aware of what it is that they want to do, and then being afraid to take that leap. So what would you tell somebody that's they know that there's a calling and something that they're really supposed to do, and they're afraid?
Yeah, I just listened to our podcast probably 2 or 3 times, and we talk about that. And I was thinking, in my life, when I always talk about pushing past the fear, and we talked about fake it till you make it, and just act as if. I always, it's like when people realize that program in their mind is fear, ego based, limiting beliefs, and if they realize and the minute they have that little trigger of I don't know if I can do that, or I don't think I'm confident enough to feel like just for an example, like someone that wants to be a singing star, but they have a beautiful voice, but they're afraid to get on stage because they don't have the confidence. I always tell them, fake it. Just pretend that you're this amazing, start talking about it. Talking, even if you don't feel it, those words that you speak are powerful. Those are like manifesting magic. That all the things that, in your mind that blocks you, change that. It's these loops that people keep playing over and over that aren't true. And I just keep telling my clients and my friends and my kids, when you realize the thoughts, and there's 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and they're all basically the same. And if you don't change them to the positive, empowering ones, then your life will never change. But once you start changing those thoughts, your beliefs shift. Those triggers that you have during the day, or the thoughts of fear that like just bombard your mind all the time, it will start to shift, and you'll be like, whoa, this is so fun. This is how life should be.
Yeah, I heard. I talked to somebody yesterday, and she said the first thing she tells people to do is to make a list of everything great about yourself. And I
Yes.
thought, that's so good. I mean, we're so great at saying what's wrong, but to make a long list of everything great about yourself, I thought, all right, that's a great tip. That's a good tool to start with now. It's
I
like when
always
you
say
look,
to like focus on the good. you
yep.
know I
Hmm.
always say, if you forget, put signs everywhere. Focus on the good. I always talk about gratitude. That's like the third week in both of my courses. We do a full week on gratitude. And when you realize, like, really a lot of your limiting beliefs can be shifted just by looking at your life, looking at the positive things. looking at making, gosh, look at where I live. Like, look at the house I live in. I can hear the girls go, oh, Mom, I only got 7 hours of sleep. That was Paige the other day. And I said, wow, that's amazing. Shift it to, I got to sleep for 7 hours in a beautiful bed in a beautiful house. And I'm so lucky I get to get up and have a school to go to. When you just those little words and you focus on the good part of it.
It's the whole I get to. I get to sleep. I get to have this much. Yes. I get to go. I get to study. I get to go to work. I get to help people at my job. I get to whatever it is. Yes. It's whatever we focus on grows. And I love the gratitude and doing gratitude lists. People are like, I don't feel grateful. I said, no, the point is, by the time you get to the end of the gratitude list, you will.
Yes. Oh my gosh. There's a book with the magic book with the lady that wrote The Secret, Lauren Abrams. She has a book called The Magic. And it's a whole month of gratitude. You do that for like a week and you can't even imagine I did that with a friend and it shifted. She's like, oh my gosh, I can't even look at my life the same.
Yeah. Gratitude is a game changer, definitely. Okay, so talk about the breadcrumbs. I love when you talk about the breadcrumbs.
That's funny because I was listening to that going, gosh, I always talk about the breadcrumbs.
No, go ahead.
People realize, I look at it as inspired thoughts. Like when I had a thought, like you probably, you had a thought, I'll start a podcast. That's a breadcrumb. Did you take the action and move forward and to get the next breadcrumb? And then you did. And then you're like, okay, now I have to figure out how to do it. Okay, figure it out. Those are like just when people keep moving forward and walking along. I always also talk about the yellow brick road. Keep going. Pick up those little nuggets. Listen to that voice. Listen to your intuition. It's all connected. And when you keep saying yes, like don't get to the end of your life and say, what if? These what ifs in life, we're not going to come back and live in this body again. Let's do it now. Take those breadcrumbs and, what's it going to hurt? And I always say, once you get past those, like the 10th breadcrumb, you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, look at what I did. Now I can go through the next 10 and keep going. That's when I always talk about magic, because of uncover your magic. But I just believe, like, if people realize that, to trust and surrender is another part of picking up the breadcrumbs. It's 2 words that I love that in my life is when I realize when I do trust and surrender, the breadcrumbs are fun. Look at, maybe it's not the right one. Maybe you keep going, but it's okay.
Okay, why don't you talk about trust and surrender? We didn't hit that at all on the podcast. So why are those important in your life?
Because when you understand that you're always provided for and everything's perfect, and even if you look at something as wrong or bad, it's not. It's a lesson, and you grew from it, and you learned, and you grew, and you walked to the next, and you trusted, and then you just surrender to the universe, to God, knowing that there's a higher plan, knowing that when, anything in your life, a lot of people will look at, something in their life, a divorce, something tragic, even an illness. If you can turn your mind to look at what did that teach me? What am I growing? It's because we're here to grow. So when you trust and understand that, gosh, surrender to the universe that everything is perfect. You are perfect. The problems that you look at that we think are bad aren't. They're all perfect. So changing your perception, I think trust and surrender are 2 amazing words. In fact, someone said you need to make a t-shirt that says #trust and surrender. I said, oh, that would be perfect. That's how I always say those words.
Yeah, that's so good. It reminded me, I don't know why, I penned the term relationship at one point when I was clearly not in a great place. And that's what basically, but it's, it's through our biggest pain that the most growth comes. I mean, I don't care what it is. There's nobody who isn't on the other side of it, because the only way through is through. And once you get on the other side far enough, you go, okay, I see now it was for this reason. And I've interviewed enough elders to know that that's just life. It's life. We all get through it. and there's at the end of whatever it is, they're more good than bad. I hate to put judgment; those are judgment terms, and I really hate putting any kind. Happy, I'll say happy. That's a feeling more than a judgment. There's more of the happy than the sad at the end of the day. And I've talked to people that have been through horrific lives, and yet they will still tell me that there was more happy than sadness at the end of their time here, so of this iteration, whatever you believe. But so yeah, I love the way that you talk about it, and you were the first one to talk about breadcrumbs. Other people have said, oh yeah, I've heard it, but I had never heard the term, so I just love that part. Yeah. And fears aren't real anyway. They're
false evidence appearing real.
Yeah, totally. And I have that. There you go. And so, what about people that they just still need that kind of push or the motivation, or like, I don't know what to do though. I don't know how to do it. Everybody else is doing it, which isn't true because everyone has their own unique voice. Nobody can do it like you can do it. What do you tell them?
It really comes down to your, what you're focusing on. What's your, you find something happy, turn on music, do something that you love, go outside in nature, look at the trees. Like I went for a walk with my daughter this morning. And I was like, look at that tree. Like, isn't that amazing? Like, would you just walk by it and, not even notice things, but to be aware of the beauty and to, it's all going back to my trust and surrender, and focusing on the good. But when I have clients that are struggling in a relationship or marriage, and their lack of self-worth are so ingrained in these beliefs that they've believed their whole life, and to really feel like they don't know where to go. So it is the tools, it's the gratitude, it's the loop in your head. Being aware of those thoughts. It's really not hard. That's the thing. Like, it's so simple. But when people look at it from a limited belief perspective of knowing that's all they know for their whole life, and that those are the only words they've told themselves for 40 years, it's hard. It's a shift, but you can do it, and it doesn't have to take another 40 years.
Yeah. How do you help people get rid of their limiting beliefs, or even be aware of what they are?
Okay. So I love helping this. So I have a form. It's called a manifestation event form that they fill out. So anytime you're triggered, it could be anything. At the store, someone could have said something to you that, now I look at it like, oh my gosh, that's that person, and just smile. But anytime you're triggered in a relationship, a fight, whatever, you write it down and you prove it false. So if it was a limiting, maybe it was I didn't feel worthy for something, and you would prove it wrong. You would find the limiting belief, which would be I'm not worthy, and then write that is so false. Look what I did. I accomplished this. I've done this. Start proving it wrong, and then it's like science, because you're proving it wrong and you're writing it down on a piece of paper, and your brain is seeing it as wrong because you're writing it down and you're looking at it and you're realizing it is wrong. I'm totally worthy. I'm enough. And so that really limiting beliefs for me, because especially my passion is to realize that with children, especially, since they're teenagers and they're only, you're programmed from 0 to 7. And then, once you get to teenage life, they're kind of still fresh. So they're more easily to be removed than the 40-year-olds or the 50-year-old. So with the kids, it's easier, and they can.
Okay, let's talk about but with adults then, because that's
Well, with adults, they program their mind to these limiting beliefs have played a huge impact in their life. I have clients that I counted it, 21 calls, 1 hour coaching calls, and we're still tipping the ice off she just, it's like really looking at it like, look, those are just the words you're speaking. You don't have any, that's not true. So what we really work on it, it's like getting those forms filled out, being aware of the trick. Every time you're triggered, I had one girl that would get mad in traffic and like flip the person off underneath her steering wheel. And I said, Kelly, that's a joke. Like, no. She's like, Ashley, you're right. That's a trigger. So she said, now when I'm driving in traffic, I'm looking at him and smiling. I go, exactly. That's like, those are, I don't get on, I think right now in my life, because it's very neutral. I mean, you could ask my kids about my husband and I. There's never a fight. Like, we just live in this world of neutrality. I know that sounds like, whatever, a fairy tale, but you don't have to live with arguments. You can look at it like, that's his journey. That's where he's going, because anything that you see in someone that triggers you is in you. They're all a reflection of you. So anything, it wouldn't trigger you if it wasn't inside of you. They're a reflection. I just got a text from my one client saying that this day's reading was about, if your mom was judgmental or always said stressed, it's a reflection of you, or that wouldn't bug you. And so she asked me, why, I don't understand this reading. Why would I, my mom says she's always judgmental and stressed. I go, look at those two words. She says that about herself all the time. It wouldn't bug me, because I don't look at my life as stressed and I don't judge. So it would just pass over. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So is this still just the writing? Like, I'm not about reprogramming. Would you have her reprogram her mind about being judgmental or stressed?
Yes. So you would, yeah. So, well, the judgmental thing is, I teach so much about acceptance and being stressed. What, that do you need validation that you're busy? The stress isn't a limiting belief. It's probably she needs validation that she's busy, or she needs people to validate her that she's working hard. So you don't need to be validated. You don't need approval. So you get rid of the validation, and it's amazing how freeing that feeling is when you don't sit there and wait for someone else to acknowledge that, oh, you are stressed. All they're doing is validating what you want. You want them to, think of you. And you don't need to, because once you're completely satisfied with who you are and happy with your life, and you don't need validation, or you think you're enough and you're worthy, gosh, you don't need anybody to. That's why a relationship is beautiful, when you get to that place where, you're just like loving and accepting and watching them unfold their, limiting beliefs. And, it's just it's nothing to judge.
Yeah, definitely not. No, it's their path.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So I will put in all of these locations, how to reach Ashley. And if you didn't have and everything's on our website anyway. And if you didn't have a chance to listen to the episode, you need to listen. She's so fabulous. And yeah, she's on YouTube and on Insta anyway, and she's got her podcast. So anything else, any last thoughts that you want to throw in before we end?
I maybe just, look at your life as, we're only here for this short time, and find things to be happy. Do what you can to be happy. Once you realize that it's all about just being happy, that's when magic comes. Anything that you do or experience, just find the happiness. It really goes back to focusing on the good and trusting and surrendering and all the things we talked about.
It's so true. Whatever you focus on grows, and everything really does work out. Maybe not on our timetable, but it just does. Yes. Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Oh, thank you. That was so fun. I love it.
Yeah.